Welcome, everybody, to this quarterly edition of the Advanced Webinars by myself, Hector Garcia, CPA, for QuickBooks Online, Quarter 4, 2023. The link to the slides are up there on the screen. We're also going to put them in the description and memo line in YouTube after we record this and post this into YouTube, so feel free to download the slides as well. And I want to quickly mention that my friend Alicia Katz-Pollock, who's in the webinar live right now, she's kind of running the show in the back end. She'll be the one answering all the live questions. Okay, so once it goes into YouTube comments, I'll have access to answering those. But all the live questions via Zoom will be answered by Alicia. That way, I can do the webinar smoothly without having to stop to answer questions. And a lot of this stuff is being pre-recorded. That way, it shows up smoothly. But Alicia will be right there live on the chat to answer any questions. So really quick about Alicia Katz-Pollock, Masters in Teaching. She is the QBO Rockstar, founder of Royal Wise Solutions, which is a great website for all sorts of QuickBooks training. She's the author of updated, up-to-date QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop textbooks. There's links on the slides if you want to see those. She has been named top 10 ProAdvisor, top 50 women in accounting, and she's a co-host of the unofficial QuickBooks Accountants podcast, which we'll talk about it briefly. Today's topics are going to be the following. First, we're going to start with Intuit and sort of accounting industry related news. We'll talk about Intuit Assist that was first announced on September 6th of 2023. We'll talk about QuickBooks Connect takeaways, biggest conference of the year for QuickBooks people. We'll discuss what we learned there. Then we'll talk about the new reimagined ProAdvisor program that affects most accounting professionals that work with QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. And then I'll quickly go over the new features added in RightTool for QuickBooks Online, which is an app that I co-developed with my friend Mark. Then we're going to talk about QuickBooks Desktop 2024 new features. We're not going to demo any of them. I actually have videos on that. But we're going to go over all the new things that came out in around October of 2023 for all the versions of QuickBooks Desktop. Then we're going to go into QuickBooks Online and discuss all the new things that have been added for this quarter. Tons of things that have been added, tons of things that will be changing in the next coming months. We'll discuss all that. Then we'll talk about a new feature in QuickBooks Online Accountant called the Chart of Account Templates. And then we'll end up talking about QuickBooks Online Advanced and some new features there, such as a fixed asset manager, some major updates to the reporting, to the advanced reporting screen, and things that are happening in the user permissions for QuickBooks Online Advanced. So this webinar should take roughly about an hour and a half to 100 minutes to cover all these things. So let's start with Intuit and accounting industry related news. First thing we'll discuss is QuickBooks Connect 2023. Key takeaways. So Intuit made a public commitment. Most of the executives on the Intuit side, on the QuickBooks side, made a pretty public commitment on stage that they need to partner with accountants for success. That always sounds good. It feels good. Now let's see what it looks like in the real world once we start seeing new features and the feedback that we give them and what changes they make to how they work with accountants. The other really important thing that they mentioned is that the AI tools that they're building, which will first be released for the end users, will also be available to accountants as well, and those will all be folded into sort of the monthly review accountant tools that we use to manage our clients. So that's very exciting to see what they're going to come up with in terms of AI for accounting professionals to help their clients. They also announced, and this was a kind of an interesting one, a partnership with Allstate Insurance, to offer insurance to small businesses through QuickBooks. So they're going to cross-sell insurance through QuickBooks users. And I personally am not a big fan of cross-selling things, through the accounting software. Actually, it's one of the things that irked me the most, to be honest with you. But if somehow they can offer through, the power of volume, if they can somehow figure out how to give small businesses better health insurance or less expensive health insurance or less expensive liability insurance, then I would be for that, because that would be a net win for both accounting professionals, because we're small business owners too. We have firms, and also the average small business. So we'll see how that plays out. But you should start seeing, probably 2024, start seeing these offers by Allstate inside QuickBooks Online to essentially offer you insurance products. Now, they didn't cover the specific line of insurance products, but they hinted that health insurance would be one of them, probably liability, workers' comp, that sort of thing. They also announced on stage that they have a new partnership with Chase Bank to have more stable bank feeds. I mean, this is the weirdest thing. You got the biggest bank in the country that has over 1 million users using QuickBooks, and it has it's felt like the most unstable of all the major bank connections into QuickBooks. So they announced this partnership to create a better connectivity and less disconnections and less missed transactions and that sort of thing. So we're looking forward to seeing that. I have tons of clients using Chase. And the biggest kind of showstopper that they announced, it's basically a new product, a new version of QuickBooks Online called QuickBooks Ledger for $10 a month. Essentially, it's a slimmed down version of QuickBooks Online Simple Start, only available to accountants. So accountants have to log in through their accountant portal, through their ProAdvisor portal, and they can add a QuickBooks Ledger new file, and the accountant's going to pay the $10 a month, and that is meant for you to bring maybe some of your clients that you had in QuickBooks Desktop that you were probably doing books once a year or something like that, and bring them over to QuickBooks Online so you can use bank feeds and the collaboration tools and that sort of thing. Because obviously what Intuit wants eventually is for everybody to move, or all the small businesses using QuickBooks to be on QuickBooks Online. Now, QuickBooks Ledger is not for people with accounts receivable or accounts payable. It's just going to be for banking, for reports, and for doing what we call in the accounting world the write-up. Basically the once a year, the tax-ready type of financial documents. Then the other part that they announced, and I got to see some screenshots or some ideas that they had, but it looks like this might be more towards like 2024, maybe middle 2024, where we actually start seeing it, but it's kind of a big deal, is they're actually actively working on getting sales orders to QuickBooks Online Plus and Advanced for the inventory version of QuickBooks Online to function within the context of e-commerce, right? So you'll be able to create sales orders for straight B2C sales, or you'll be able to download from your Amazon or Shopify or whatever the sales come in as sales orders, so you can manage that inventory and convert it from sales order to invoice once it's been shipped. So that's going to be a big deal for folks using inventory. And the other huge announcement that they made and had a whole bunch of high fives and standing ovation on the stage is they're finally bringing QuickBooks Desktop style payroll job costing to QuickBooks Online. Again, the challenge with these announcements is that there was no timeline. The QuickBooks Ledger was the only thing that was literally live as a new product that was live at the end of the conference. These other announcements are like, okay, we'll see. They'll be there soon. But it's important to mention them in either case. Once they're live, of course, on the next quarterly update webinar, I will cover those in detail. And lastly is the reimagined ProAdvisor program, which we'll cover in detail in future slides. The other thing that was actually announced prior to QuickBooks Connect was Intuit Assist. And Intuit Assist basically is the ChatGPT response, or the ChatGPT style functionality response from Intuit, because they're starting to see that these chatbots or artificial intelligence, basically that works through chats, are starting to sort of take over the psyche of the average software user. And most software users are now accustomed to having some sort of chat assistant version that helps them navigate whatever software it is. So Intuit Assist is their first attempt of doing that. On September 6th, they made a big announcement. This is targeted for end users first, not accountants. If you go to intuit.com/Intuit Assist, you can see those videos. You can see the announcement from the CEO. They talked about it at QuickBooks Connect on stage as well. But again, I don't think anybody has access to this product yet, although you can see some videos to see what it looks like. And essentially, it's a little chat window next to your QuickBooks Online as an end user. Instead of having to know which reports you're looking for, you can use natural language like, hey, who owes me money as of last month or something like that, and it'll find the report for you or give you a graph for first like a summary first look graphical version, easy to understand version right there on the chat screen, or you can click a button and take you to the actual underlying report. So essentially, you're going to be able to use natural English language to navigate some of the things in QuickBooks as an end user if you don't know how to find the reports or find the information you're looking for. Intuit Assist will be very useful. And they also hinted that Intuit Assist will work across ecosystem. It's why it's not called QuickBooks Assist, it's called Intuit Assist, because if you're using Credit Karma or MailChimp or TurboTax and any other product that Intuit develops that is related or semi-tangential to what a small business user would use or integrate with QuickBooks, it's going to search across all those products. So that's really interesting, and obviously a clear response to Microsoft talking about Copilot across Microsoft Office products, or Google talking about Bard working across the sort of the G Suite, the workspace products. So like all these software companies are all basically announcing that yes, our ecosystem will all talk to each other, and these chat Gen AI, artificial intelligence products are going to be the ones that help you navigate data across all their other applications and all the databases that you have. So that's really interesting. Again, we don't know what it looks like. There's no way to demo it. I don't think anybody has access to that as of today. Now let's go deep into the reimagined ProAdvisor program. Now I'll talk about a podcast that I started with my friend Alicia, sort of at the end of this segment, because we actually went super deep dive into this. But I'm going to give you the 5,000 foot version, the sort of the summary version. So number one, starting November 20th, you're going to start seeing some changes in the ProAdvisor program. You'll log into your ProAdvisor portal, and you'll start seeing, the point system change and a whole bunch of things that will start changing. And they're going to be making all these changes through the middle of February. So you should start seeing all these changes in there. First thing is to be able to be listed in the ProAdvisor website. In the Find the ProAdvisor website, you need to have gold status, which is going to require 500 points. The core QuickBooks Online certification is only 100 points. The advanced is 200 points, which means that you either have to get the core, the advanced, and the payroll. So you have to have all the certifications or actually start having paying clients for you to be able to reach 500 and to be listed there. So that's a huge win for like the real pro advisors that feel that their listing is crowded by a bunch of pro advisors that just created a free account, and just because they passed this simple core certification and they're paying nothing, they're listed in there and it sort of crowds the search. So that's pretty good. So that's a pretty good thing, I think. I think that's net positive to the experienced pro advisors that are out there. Now they're also widening the amount of pro advisors that get that super premium support. So that only used to be for like sort of advanced elite pro advisor or premium and elite pro advisors. Now gold members are going to get that premium support. So as long as, again, you have the core certification and a bunch of clients, or the core certification, the advanced certification, and the payroll certification, you have access to the gold plus premium support. So that's a net win for people that at least get those 500 points and they get access to the better support. Now, the elite pro advisor status, which used to be still the highest that you can have, which used to be pretty attainable to reach. I think it was like 1,600 points or something like that you needed to reach. Now you need like 7,000 points. So like they basically widened the gap really, really, really wide. So only like a small percentage of pro advisors are going to be elite. Now, the elite stuff for now doesn't seem to be really relevant. What you get for the elite, and I'll have you research that, but it doesn't seem to be like a lot more than what the gold gets anyway. There's going to be a whole bunch of new benefits that they're going to announce. The biggest one is going to be a 75% discount for new MailChimp accounts. So if you're a pro advisor, you can get MailChimp for 75% off of the first year. So I use MailChimp. I've been using MailChimp for like 8 years. This is prior to Intuit even acquiring MailChimp. So it's a great product. Mass email your clients, your followers, offer them new things, that sort of thing. People that actually access this webinar live via Zoom, they're in my MailChimp account, and I uh, remind people about the webinar or send them the recording, that sort of thing. So it's just a great place for you to stay in communication with your clients, with your prospects, with your followers, whatever it happens to be. Now, if you also prepare tax returns and you use the online version of their tax software called the ProConnect Tax, or PTO, some people call it that, you will have anywhere between 35% and 45% discount on those products if you're a ProAdvisor and run or do your taxes with ProConnect. So that's a huge benefit as well. And Intuit is coming out with a new software called Intuit Tax Advisor, which is a tax planning software. I haven't seen it, but it looks really interesting. I've seen a couple of videos and previews of that, and there's going to be a discount off of that. And that product's going to be actually a lot higher price point that what most people imagine. We're talking about a couple $100s a month to access into a tax advisor. But as a pro advisor, you'll be able to get that anywhere between 10 and 40%, depending on your status. And if you want to buy DocuSign through the Pro Advisor program, 20 to 40% off DocuSign. They also have some new badges, and we'll show you what those badges look like. So that's pretty cool. Refresh badges, new badges, that sort of thing. There's actually an article in the Firm of the Future website. You can click on that link on the slides and you can get all these details. So the new badges essentially are, well, first of all, redesigned badges for QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor, QuickBooks Advanced, QuickBooks Online Advanced, and QuickBooks Payroll. So you get brand new badges. For QuickBooks Desktop, I'm not sure if the badges are going away or if they're refreshing them. They said nothing about the badges. There's also a tier badge, so depending whether you're silver, gold, platinum, or elite, there will be new badges. It's unclear to me whether or not the status or tier badge is actually going to show in your profile. I know for sure your certification badges, like the QBO Advanced, and QuickBooks Payroll, those are going to show in your ProAdvisor profile website for sure. But the tier badges, I'm not sure if those are going to show. So those are just for you to like put on your website or print with your business cards or whatever. I really don't know what the purpose of the tier badge is if it's not shown in the ProAdvisor profile. And there's going to be these new community badges. So if you're like part of one of the QuickBooks councils or the Intuit partnership councils, if you're a trainer for them, there's going to be this interesting new badges. If you pass the reporting special sort of certification or course and the banking certification or course, you're going to have those badges as well. Again, I don't think those show up in the Find a Pro Advisor website. I think those are just strictly for like your own website or your own sort of social media. Now the point system is interesting. You get 25 points for any QuickBooks self-employed subscription clients you may have added to your QuickBooks Online accountant. You get 25 points for any QuickBooks Ledger subscriptions. This is a new $10 a month subscription service. You get $25, 25 points, sorry, 25 points for any clients that have QuickBooks Bill Pay Core actually. You get 50 points for any QuickBooks Online subscriptions that's not advanced, so Simple Start Plus or Essentials. 50 points for QuickBooks Online payroll subscriptions, and then 50 points for any clients that have QuickBooks Bill Pay, the premium version. 75 points for any QuickBooks Online advanced clients that you have. 75 points for any clients with QuickBooks Online payments. That's pretty interesting. And 75 points for any clients with QuickBooks Bill Pay, the elite version. As I mentioned earlier, you get 100 points for your QBO certification, for your QuickBooks Desktop certification, and an extra 100 points that you get once for some reason per firm for actually paying for the annual version of the Pro Advisor program, which is the Premier or Desktop uh, annual subscription. And then 200 points for your QuickBooks Online Advanced certification, and 200 points for your QuickBooks Online Payroll certification. So now you see how this whole thing has been gamified and a bunch of different points. I don't know, honestly, in the long run, how many busy accounting professionals are going to be focused on getting their points and getting their statuses up, but this is how they're doing it. So for some pro advisors that have a whole bunch of clients and not really keeping track, maybe they'll automatically have a high status because of all these points, and others are gonna have to work hard at it to get a higher status. Again, I think most people with a 500 point gold certification, they will be fine with that. You're also going to start seeing more training, more programs, more access to more content. For example, starting this summer, you may have started to see the tax training. They have like basic 1040 tax return training and filing return training and some tax advisory training. So that's pretty interesting. Of course, I've always welcomed any sort of training or new ways to better myself. That's always going to be welcome. Now, what's also really cool is they updated their PDF manuals for client training. So if you're a gold with at least 500 points, you should be able to download a little kit. Actually, I'm going to open that up so you can see it. So out of that, and basically it's a bunch of PDF files that look like this, and is great little manuals either you can print for your clients, or you can use them to train your clients or your clients team members. Basically it just kind of walks you through how to do everything in QuickBooks, what everything means. Something that a lot of people ask for is, hey, is there a manual for QuickBooks Online? And they've always had this, but I believe the last updated prior to 2023 was 2021, so it was already feeling a little outdated. So very good that they have updated those materials. Now, in this comparison chart, you kind of get to see what you get or don't get depending on your status. Like I said, the gold status, the one that gets you access to the Find the Pro Advisor directory, that that's the premium support, the premium phone support. That's going to be the most important thing. As you can see from here, the only two things that you get additional in the elite, what used to be, I think it was like 1,600 points or 2,000 points or whatever to get, that now takes 7,000 points to get, is something called firm growth consultation. I don't know what that is. Maybe someone from Intuit helps you grow your firm. That's kind of interesting, or maybe it's nothing. And then this thing called special events and discounts, but again, we don't know what those things are. Other than the tier discounts on Mailchimp, and Pro Connect Tax, and all those things that I mentioned earlier, that could be a benefit if you also buy those products. So again, really honestly, kind of a big nothing for me. Like I don't see a big value on this. I don't see myself, like trying to get more points or whatever. As long as I get to that gold, I think I'm going to be good. And I think most people are going to feel that's going to be good enough. I'll put a link there to a sort of detailed description on like all the different tiers and the points and that sort of thing. So the last thing I want to mention on this segment is the very last episode that we released on the unofficial QuickBooks Accountants podcast, which is my podcast with my friend Alicia Katz Pollock. Every week we get together and we give you a little bit of more updates about QuickBooks Online, Intuit, and the QuickBooks ecosystem. And the last episode that we released was going pretty deep into this new reimagined ProAdvisor program. And these are the type of content that we're going to be covering in a weekly basis on that podcast. So definitely search up the unofficial QuickBooks Accountants podcast, wherever you hear your podcast, or go to uqapodcast.com and I'll take you straight into the transistor page so you can listen to it from your browser or subscribe on your phone if you want to listen to it from your phone, which is the preferred method. Now, I want to briefly talk about RightTool. The RightTool is the app that I developed, or I designed, and my partners Mark and Patrick developed. And it's a little add-on that you add to your browser that enhances the functionality of QuickBooks Online. You go to righttool.app to download it. There's a free version, there's a pro version, and I just want to go through all the things that we've added this quarter. So number one, we moved all the reporting features to the free edition. So if you don't have RightTool yet, um, at least get the free version because we've improved. I mean, we've done improvements to reports, or at least to the navigation and interface of reports, and that's all available in the free edition. We moved about half of the banking features that used to be in the pro edition now to free. So that should be great because that'll speed up your online banking, your bank feeds workflows. We also added an option in the bank feeds or banking interface where only shows the subcategory, which is really useful when you have very long, like parent, sub account, sub account, and it doesn't fit on the grid of bank feeds. So by turning that on, you only see that lowest level account or hide all the parent accounts, only show the sub account name. That's going to be super useful to a lot of people that have long chart of account names with tons of sub accounts. We also added, and this is a crowd favorite, it's called auto switch to classic view on reports. A lot of times you're looking at a report and you click to drill down and it shows you the new version of reports, and a lot of people are not ready to view the new version of the reports and they want to go back to classic view and they have to go in there and click classic view. So we auto hit that click for you. Again, all this stuff is available in the free edition. And lastly, another crowd favorite is called Google Memo, shortcut on bank feeds. And I will show you this one because this is the only one that I'll demo because this one's definitely worth showing. Okay, let me switch over to QuickBooks Online. Notice that I have this this blue navigation bar on the right-hand side of the screen. That is RightTool. Once you install it, you're gonna see that big navy blue bar. I can even collapse my left navigation bar because usually once you install RightTool, you can ignore the left navigation bar and focus on the right navigation bar, and you do all your navigation through there. Now, there's a setting here under Bank and Rules. It's a free setting called Google Memo Link in Bank Feeds. And this is one of the new ones, definitely a crowd favorite that we have added to RightTool in this last quarter. When you go into your bank transactions or your bank feeds, and let me just open something that has a pending transaction, and we can kind of use that as an example. So let me open that up. And let's say that you're looking at a transaction and you're not 100% sure what this transaction could be. I see this thing called here 403 spare food 15225 Miami. Okay, so I'm looking at that and I have no idea what that is. Typically, what we do is we copy this information, we open a new browser or a new tab, go to Google, paste that in Google, and search it. So what we did to make this super easy and fast is we added a button here called Google Memo, and basically it's just a link that when you click on that, a little pop-up shows up on the right-hand side, and it does the Google search for you. And also, notice that when it does the Google search, it searches the entire piece of information that was on the memo. I know sometimes people say, you know what, I want to focus on a very specific thing. And you can actually just select the part that you want to search. So assuming that you don't want to search all the numbers and cities and phone numbers and stuff that comes into the bank feed. So you could just choose what you want to search. And then when you select something in there prior to clicking on Google Memo, and then you click on Google Memo, it does the Google search, but notice that it actually only searches that information. And it doesn't close the screen you're in. It opens up a new pop-up style of Google search, which you could just close and click on Google Memo and open it again. So that's kind of the point. The point is that it doesn't overtake your entire screen. You're just doing a quick search, a quick lookup or something like that in the middle of your bank feed. So we added that feature, as I mentioned, definitely a crowd favorite, that Google Memo shortcut in bank feeds. That's the only thing that I'll demo for RightTool. If you don't have RightTool yet, get the free edition because you'll get like 50 features, including Google Memo. You'll be blown away how much better your navigation experience of QuickBooks Online is with that. Again, RightTool.app, all the instructions on how to download, how to install will be there. Now, talk about the pro features that we added. We added this thing called Ask ChatGPT about a payee. So similar to Google Memo, when you click on Ask ChatGPT, it will search that information, ask ChatGPT, and then give you whatever ChatGPT guesses it could be. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. You figure out whether that information is going to be useful for you or not. Then we have the ability to delete recurring transactions in bulk. People tell me all the time that the recurrent transactions that were created are, make a mess of the screen. I just want to delete a whole bunch at the same time instead of clicking delete, yes. So we can now do that in bulk. We could also do something called copy down, where basically you have a class or a location or a customer job or an account name or an amount, and you want to put it just in one line and then click copy down, and it duplicates that piece of information within that column across all the active rows. And that's huge for a lot of people because they don't have to click so much to get that information in. We also have the ability to duplicate transactions from the register. So if you have like a check in the register or an expense and you want to just duplicate it, create two of the same, you can do that quickly. We have the ability to quick create payees in bank feeds. So similar to the Google memo, you select a piece of information in that in that in that in that memo box, and then you click a little plus button that we have in there. When you click on that, it automatically creates the vendor for you. So it basically speeds up that vendor creation process. We also added a new huge crowd favorite, the ability to bulk enter transactions in the register from a CSV or Excel, similar to QuickBooks Desktop. You have a little grid. You have date, payee name, amount, and account name, and you and class two, and then you can just go in, boop, and import all that information in one shot. A whole bunch of transactions, bunch of expenses, bunch of checks, bunch of deposits. You can enter that stuff in one shot. Now inside each register using RightTool Pro. We also have the ability to reclassify the source transaction or the source bank account in a transaction. So sometimes you have people receiving deposits into like the wrong bank account, or receiving payments into the wrong bank account, or receiving sales receipts into the wrong bank account, or putting something inside of a bank account instead of undeposited funds. We can now fix that. We can change the source account for those deposits and that sort of thing. We also have the ability to drag and drop files into journal entries. So you have a journal entry open, you can drag and drop a CSV file that's formatted just like your journal entry, and boom, you see that information pasted in the journal entry. It's pretty wild stuff. People love it. We have a new feature called convert pay type. So like sometimes you have some of your clients, maybe if you're an accountant, that they will create a bunch of customers, while working with bank feeds because they didn't notice that they have to click on the drop down menu and select this is an actual vendor. So now we have basically a one click shortcut to take a customer that was created as a customer and create it as a vendor. Now it doesn't transfer the transactions yet, but it at least saves you the step of creating that customer as a vendor, and then you can use the bulk edit features that we have in RightTool to maybe change all the underlying transactions from that customer to that new vendor that you created that was supposed to be the correction of the original one that was created wrong. We also added an all date options into the new enhanced reports. And this is an area that people get super annoyed by, that when you open the new enhanced reports, the dynamic date range, it gives you last week, it gives you last year, this month, last month, this quarter, it gives you all these things, but it doesn't give you all dates. So we added a little shortcut that basically expands the date range to effectively give you an all dates type of setup. And lastly, we have a new feature that allows you to find the products in your item list, your products and services that are tied to the accounts or mapped to the accounts that you're trying to make inactive. It's so annoying when you try to delete an account and QuickBooks says, hey, you can't delete it because there's products associated with it, but it doesn't tell you which products are associated with it, which drives people crazy. So now we create a little report for you so you can go and then unmap those items or delete them or whatever you're going to do. So then you can finally inactivate or delete that account. So that's RightTool, basically Q4 2023 updates. If you haven't gotten it yet, get the free version. If you fall in love with the free version, upgrade to Pro eventually. Pro is $50 a month, $50 a month, but that's across all your clients, all your QBO files. It's not per client. So if you are a user of RightTool, you pay $50 a month. Every single QBO file you access gives you all the Pro tools. And again, if you don't pay, just use the free tools. The free tools are fantastic. All right, let's move on to QuickBooks Desktop 2024 updates. So QuickBooks Desktop gets released between end of September and beginning of October every year. The 2024 edition came out. A little bit disappointing in terms of new features, but then again, we're sort of half expecting that, as QuickBooks pretty much is trying to move everybody to QuickBooks Online. So they're not going to make it much, much better, because otherwise people won't be wanting to move to QuickBooks Online. So let's start with QuickBooks for Mac 2024. The first thing that they added, or the biggest thing they added, quote unquote, is 256-bit encryption. So if somebody hacks into your file, it will be much harder, close to impossible, for them to steal your client data, sensitive payroll information, sensitive credit card information, that sort of thing. They also added the view mode for QuickBooks for Mac 2024, which they added this in 2023 Windows edition, where if you stop paying the annual subscription, you still have access to the file for up to a year after you stop paying for the subscription. So that's nice. In my opinion, it should be unlimited. Like, why limit it to a year? That's beyond me. It's view only, nothing you can do, right? But at least, okay, at least you have access, still be able to look at the files, or maybe look at reports and export data from reports, that sort of thing, for up to a year after your annual subscription expires. They also updated the inventory adjustment screen. It looks a lot more like the desktop or Windows desktop edition for you to do your quantity and value on hand. So that's a nice little enhancement. They also added a new feature that already existed in desktop for, I would say, at least over a decade, which is the ability to batch change a whole bunch of item prices. Very similar to the Windows edition. Now you can see it on the Mac edition. They added a new sales by ship address report, something that they've also added in the desktop edition probably 6 or 7 years ago. The problem is it's city and state, not state and city. I would have wished they would have done state and city, because most of the times when we want to look at a report, sales by ship to, what we care is state, and that's it. I don't know why they insist on having city and state. I see that there could be value on that, but I wish they had broken down state and then sub the cities, but that's not how they do it. It just shows city and state. So, kind of a nothing burger at this point. But if they would have done just state, I think it would have been useful. And they also added individual columns or fields to like a detailed sales report where you can see the city separate than the state, separate than the ship to address. So in a detailed report, yes, you'll be able to export that as a grid and filter that in Excel, no problem. But in the summary reports that gives you totals inside QuickBooks Online, you cannot have it by state. I don't know why they missed the mark there. They also gave you the ability to lock columns width on a report. So next time you run the report, whatever your preferred width, maybe the memo line or something like that, you're trying to make it bigger and have a specific width. Now, next time you run the report, it'll remember and it'll run the report at that same width. That's it for QuickBooks Desktop Mac. Now, for QuickBooks Pro Premier, these are the lower versions of the Windows edition of QuickBooks Desktop. They added the same 256-bit encryption. Again, if somebody tries to hack into your file, it'll be very difficult for them to steal your payroll data, your credit card, client's credit card data, that sort of thing. And they also added search capabilities inside of the payroll item list, which was very much needed, and the fixed asset list. And honestly, that's it. Pro Premier 2024, that's really all it got. I mean, most people on desktop at this point are already paying the annual subscription, so they might as well upgrade. It's not like a financial decision to upgrade. You're already paying the annual subscription anyway. So prior to this subscription change, people decided, hey, are the new features worth upgrading? No, okay, we'll wait for next year type of thing. At this point, just upgrade because you're already paying the annual subscription. It's included with your annual subscription anyway. Needless to say, Pro Premier 2024, huge disappointment in terms of new features. I do have a full 1-hour video in YouTube covering all the features of QuickBooks Desktop Pro Premier and Enterprise, so I'm not going to cover those in a live demo on this webinar. I'll just list the features. Now for Enterprise, a little bit better, okay? The huge feature that they added, very much needed, it's been on my wish list forever, is the customer prepayment. So now you'll be able to create a sales order and receive a payment basically linked to that sales order. And you're going to have full reports letting you know which sales orders have payments attached to them. So then when you fulfill that sales order and you convert it into an invoice, QuickBooks will automatically ask you, hey, I got a payment on that sales order. You want to transfer that payment into the invoice and mark the invoice paid or partially paid, whatever it happens to be. It does that stuff all automatically, all within workflows. It's fantastic. And the most important thing about this, and again, I have a video on this in YouTube if you want to see how it works, is that it puts that customer deposit in the liability. It doesn't put it as a negative accounts receivable, which is huge. So that's great. I think that's the one thing that Intuit hit it out of the park with this feature in QuickBooks Enterprise 2024. Now they also made improvements to the item category. This is a feature that was introduced last year, the item category, but now they added a full manage item category featurette where you can go in there and and bulk edit the items that have categories. Um, you can assign categories, change categories to items. You can have subcategories as well. So it's just really powerful how they added item categories, and I also added the item category field in a whole slew of reports, which is awesome. And now they finally added in 2024 the ability to use categories as one of the elements or one of the conditions to advanced pricing, right? So now when you want to have a particular discount across all items in a specific category, you can do that now with advanced pricing. So that's awesome. And the last improvement they did is they added a new report called Inventory Stock Status by Lot Number. Thank God. They added lot numbers, I believe, back in like 2024. Sorry, 2014, 2013, or 2013 or 2014. They added lot numbers, and it took 10 years, 9 to 10 years, to actually give us an inventory stock status by lot. I mean, it's incredible that it took that long, but it's finally here. It's useful. It works really well. So that was added in 2024. And that's it for QuickBooks Enterprise 2024, or all QuickBooks Desktop 2024. Again, in the slides, there's a link to a YouTube video, 1 hour YouTube video I released back in October that went into detail on all the desktop new features, for 2024. Okay, I got to take a quick break for a drink. Let's move on to QuickBooks Online all versions. At this point, we'll be doing some live demos on the screen. So this is up to this point is the all slides, all announcements type of thing. So QuickBooks Online all editions. So the first major thing, and I don't have a demo on this because changing a payroll file is kind of a painful process, but they updated the screens where you map your tax liability accounts in QuickBooks Online Payroll, and you can actually go more granular. So before, you could only map your 941, 943 type of liabilities into one account, your 940 type of liabilities into one account, your state unemployment into one account, your federal unemployment into one account. Now you can actually map individual tax components of a paycheck into completely separate liability accounts. So if you want to have one liability account for Social Security, one for Medicare, one for the employer side, one for the employee side, now you could break it down and do it essentially by payroll item or by payroll tax item, and have your balance sheet as detailed as you want to for your liabilities, which is really awesome. And the other part that's really cool about that is on the payroll item level, so specific payroll items inside your paycheck, every payroll item actually gets its own expense or liability account depending on what it is, right? Because some payroll items are liability, some payroll items are expense. And when you change these things, now you actually get and I'm actually going to uh, give you a link so you can watch this video separately, because I don't want to kind of steal the video's thunder. But essentially, because they're allowing you to go back and change specific tax liability accounts or payroll item accounts, you can also choose to retroactively change it in your current books. You have a specific date range that you can choose, so you can go back and do the whole year or the whole month or the whole quarter. Only problem is that it can only do 200 paychecks at a time. So you kind of have to calculate how many paychecks you have outstanding. And if you have, let's say, 600 paychecks for the whole year, you want to break down, maybe you go back and do one quarter at a time or something like that. So you can do it. But the good news, the super duper good news, is that you cannot just change that for the future. You can also retroactively go back and rewrite your financial statements, your P&Ls and balance sheets for like at least the current year, which is the most important thing. So we absolutely love that. And there's a little Loom video that an Intuit employee posted, kind of showing you the dynamic of that. Now, the other thing I want to mention is the new invoice and estimate redesign, the one that most people don't like, including myself. I mean, it's starting to grow on me, but I still like the old layout better. But they made it very clear that through Q4 2023 and probably completely finalized through December of 2023, all at least the simple start files that don't have sales tax, and I forget what the other thing, I think sales tax and something else, uh, they're all going to be moved to the new design. So like it or love it, hate it or love it, whatever it is, like it or hate it, whatever it is, um, you're not going to have a choice. So you're going to start noticing that some of your QuickBooks Online files through the end of the year will be completely moved to the new design, and you will not be able to go back to the classic edition. Now, a lot of accounting professionals, especially, have been lobbying against this because it still feels like this thing is missing buttons and functionality, or like it's harder to like get to different areas of it. And I agree with that. So I actually don't like the fact that we can't go back to classic mode. Like my ask to Intuit is to wait an entire year, like leave 2023 and 2024 alone, and give us enough warning to get used to the new system. Like I'm really going to dislike having this new functionality, especially if any one feature is missing. That's going to bring a lot of frustration. But just be aware that's coming. Now, in QuickBooks Online Plus and Advanced, you can now do balance sheet by budgets. Now, I'm going to open that up and show you that because that's actually a really important thing to show, because it's actually two things. One is the ability to import balance sheets. You can now import budgets. You can now import budgets in QuickBooks Online Plus, and both in Plus and Advanced, you can do balance sheet budgets. So let me X out of that, go into a budget here. So I'm going to go into QuickBooks Online. Let's just have this look like QuickBooks Online normal. I'm going to go into budgeting. So QuickBooks Online Plus or Advanced, you can now import your budgets. And the way you import your budget is right here where it says create new. You click on the little drop down menu, the little arrow down, click on import budget. And then once you click on import budget, you're going to go into the new screen. So in this new screen, you get to select the period that you're going to import. So let's say this is going to be 2024. And then you can download, I love this, you can download a sample. And this sample, and this is where I think they hit a home run on this one. And Intuit hasn't hit a home run in a very long time. This is a super home run. When you click on the sample and you download that sample, it brings in a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet already contains your entire chart of accounts. So exactly the way your chart of accounts is laid out, it exports as a spreadsheet, already set up for you, already in the formatting that it would read it, and then it gives you your columns for every month. So if you have mid-year or like a fiscal year, it will start at the correct fiscal year. If you have January through December, it will basically start, correct. So it would start based on like this particular file it's a mid-year, but if you don't have mid-year and you were to do something like this, it would come in. Hold on, let me delete these columns here just to show you what you may be more used to. You have January through December in columns, and then whatever numbers you put in there, let me just go back to the original formatting. So whatever numbers you put in there, so let's say I'm going to put 5,000 here throughout. Just make it super, super simple and easy to understand. I'm just going to put the same number throughout here and bring the entire layout. Make sure that we have across all the months. Okay, let's say we'll leave June blank. No big deal. So we have our profit and loss in a spreadsheet. The template was exported from QuickBooks. It contains my clean chart of accounts. I added my numbers. Then I save that. And then I come in here, I click on upload budget. I'll find it in my computer, then click on next. Okay, and then it brings in all the numbers in here automatically for you. Okay, this is amazing. You can look at it in a year basis. You can look at it in a quarterly basis. You can look at it in a monthly basis. You can look at show reference data, which will show you like what the actual numbers are now. And you can actually have it compare if you want to with the actual. So that's pretty good. You can do that, and you can compare with previous years. You can not compare. You have total control over that, and at that point you can save and close and bring that budget in there. So the new budget import in QuickBooks Online, it's amazing. I love it. I mean, I think it's a total home run. It's missing a couple of extra features like, hey, can you automatically increase something by, by 10% or something like that? That would be nice. Like if you could do, projections kind of like that. It does have the copy across button, which is pretty good. But, long story short, there's probably an opportunity to make this even more powerful. But it's great. It can import in your QuickBooks Online Plus, so you don't need Advanced. And then you can also create a budget by balance sheet. So I go to create new, and then it's going to ask me, is it going to be profit and loss, or is it going to be by balance sheet? Now, one thing to point out is number one, the balance sheet budget you cannot import. So missed the mark there. I wish they would have fixed that. So not possible to upload or import from a spreadsheet the balance sheet. You can only upload from the profit and loss. In the profit and loss, you can actually subdivide by class or location or customer. So you can totally do that, and you can actually even do sub customers, okay, which is even more interesting, where you can go to a specific customer and do a budget for a specific customer. And let me just go back here for a second, and you can do a location, so specific location or a specific sub location. You can do class, specific class or specific subclass. So really powerful, doing um, doing profit and loss by a particular class, location, or customer. The only problem I have with this is you cannot import. So you cannot import by location, you cannot import by class, you cannot import by customer. So you can only import the consolidated budget, and you cannot import the balance sheet at all. And on top of that, you cannot do balance sheet by class, by customer, by location. So still tons of area of opportunity here, but I think that what they've given us so far, it's working really well. They just need to step it up and add more stuff to that functionality. So that's budget. So the budget's got a big overhaul, and there's still tons of opportunities to make that even better. Now, the next thing to showcase is the new, refreshed, redesigned update to the new modernized view of reports. So let's click out of that and let's go into QuickBooks Online. Let's go into reports. And then I'm going to scroll down and look for one of the reports that say new enhanced experience. So let's do, for example, invoice list that says new enhanced experience. So when you click on that report, you get the new enhanced experience. You have the ability to switch to classic view, and that's what I was mentioning earlier, where you can use the old view if you don't like this new view. I'm going to do all dates here so we get all the transactions. And then I noticed a couple of things that they changed. So number one, I think there's much better use of real estate. So I absolutely adore the better use of real estate. When you hover over it, it highlights the line, which is really nice. I wish there was a way to like sort of shade area of the line automatically or add lines. That's not available yet, but that would be nice as well. But at least you get to kind of see how that works. The numbers are now either blue or red. So any negative numbers are red. Of course, there's no negative invoices, so that wouldn't show there. But if I show a different type of report, you could see the reds in there. All the other stuff works the same way, like the grouping, the filters, the general options here. Notice you can select whether you want parentheses or negatives on the negative numbers. The column selection works the same. So all that stuff kind of works the same, but it's just the overall look and feel of the table that has the transactions. There's also a little semi-hidden button here under the three little dots. You can do compact view, and it does a little bit less spacing between the transactions and the normal view. And then if you have something that's grouped, so say, for example, I'm going to group these by, let's say, by invoice date or by year or something like that. So once you have grouping, any sort of grouping, customer, date, class, location, whatever, these groupings, as you collapse them, the header is blue, right? Light blue, Celeste. So you can easily see where there's a break, right, in the groupings. You get the subtotal on the groupings, which is really nice, and that already existed, but that's in bold now to let you know that that's a subgrouping. And then when you click on the three little dots and there already is some sort of grouping, you can click on collapse all and collapse all the groupings in one shot, or expand all and expand all the groupings in one shot. So this new um, this new improvement to the enhanced reports, or the enhanced design of reports, or the modernized view reports, whatever you want to call them, it's actually a big win. It's making the report a lot friendlier. A lot of people argue that they prefer the classic view. Again, I'm not going to argue there. You do get the old dates with the classic view. You don't get it with the new ones for some reason. So a lot of people like the classic view. If you actually start looking at classic view versus enhanced view. For example, I'm going to refresh the screen really quick. So it rewrites. If you start looking at this report, and you scroll all the way down, even if you collapse the header a little bit, you're still using only roughly about 60% of the screen. So the initial criticism that the new enhanced view actually takes away visibility, in my opinion, now it's changing. So it's sort of turning the other way. I'm going to go back to the classic view again one more time. Take a look at what happens when I let me just go to a bunch of dates here. So if I actually collapse the header and I haven't zoomed in or zoomed out, notice that now 80% of my screen is being used for the report. So I think that in the design aspect of the new enhanced reports, they're moving definitely, absolutely in the right direction. So that's the new modernized view reports enhancements. I think it's absolutely worth checking out because it looks like it's definitely a net new improvement to this view. Okay. So the last thing worth mentioning in with the new modernized view of the reports is if you have a custom report that you saved, you can also add these into management reports. So that's the one thing that was missing from this new reports layout, or the new modernized view reports, is that you couldn't add these to your management reports report pack. So now you can do that. So pretty much about the last major type of feature that we were expecting from the new reports, updated reports screen, was added in there. Other than the other functionality like all dates and that sort of thing, which they'll probably fix pretty soon, they took care of this big one that people were asking, the ability to add your management reports. Now for QuickBooks Online bank feeds, one of the couple they added two major features. One is if you manually upload a CSV file, you now get to see your check number column. So in the past, you could download check numbers when it was a direct connection to the bank, but when you're uploading a CSV file and it has a check number, now that comes in. So finally, for the longest time, you couldn't use that check number field. And the other really cool feature is if you upload a manual CSV file, and for whatever reason the debits and the credits are sort of flipped. This happens all the time with like American Express credit cards and all sorts of weird banks that bring the debits and credits as debits. You don't have to go back and open the CSV file or the Excel file and do this number minus that number and flip it manually. Like it just took an extra 5 minutes that was pretty much useless for you to spend the extra 5 minutes doing that. Now, before you do the upload, right before that, if you identify these amounts being reversed, you just click the little checkbox and reverse them. So it's pretty awesome. Let's demonstrate that live on the screen. Let me just go back to bank transactions here from scratch. I'm going to click on the drop down menu where it says link account, and then I'm going to click on upload from file. So when you have a manual CSV file with your banking information that you downloaded from your bank because you couldn't connect it directly or whatever it is, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it up so you can see an example of that, what that would look like. So imagine this is what you downloaded from your bank. So you went into Bank of America, Chase, whatever it is, and when you downloaded the file, it's basically a spreadsheet. Okay, and you're gonna have information like whether it's a debit or a credit, the posting date, your description, amount, type, balance, check number. Now, Before this change, you could only bring in posting date, description, and amount. Pretty much everything else would be ignored. So I'll just delete it here because prior to this, only these three columns, posting date, description, and amount, were the only ones pretty much that you could bring in. Now it will also accept that basically that check number. Okay, and let's imagine that like you have some debits and credits here. Let's imagine that these numbers were flipped. So for example, this is a deposit, which is positive and it's correct. But imagine if that was flipped. That's the new feature that I'll showcase as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click or drag and drop that file or select it, go to continue. I'm going to map it. So I'll go find my account in my chart of accounts list. Then I get to select the date format. And here it is. Folks, finally, we get to see check numbers. And then it says optional, which is fine. And so you get to pick your column here from your spreadsheet, from your CSV file. And then we go to continue. And then notice now we got the check number column, which is beautiful. And again, if these numbers, the polarity happen to be flipped, you just click on this little checkbox, reverse all values, and boom, changes it for you. Then I select all the transactions that I want to bring in. I can manually, uncheck the ones I don't want to bring in, whatever. Then we go to continue, and then everything gets brought into bank feeds as if you had connected with the bank directly. And now, finally, the manual upload functionality, it's almost as complete as doing a direct connection to the bank. So it's pretty awesome. Let's just see what that looks like here at the end. Should be here somewhere in this drop-down menu. We should be able to see it. Let's see if we can find it. There it is. And there's all my transactions that were downloaded through the bank feeds that we had these additional options to bring that in more cleanly. All right, so that's it with QuickBooks Online, basically the regular editions. Let's now talk about QuickBooks Online Accountant. The biggest thing, this was announced in QuickBooks Connect, but it was released like around October, not November, which is the ability to apply a default chart of accounts from your accountant login to potentially multiple QuickBooks Online files or brand new QuickBooks Online files is probably going to be the most common use case for this. So let's go into QuickBooks Online Accountant. So let's wait until that loads. Okay, and when you click on Accountant Tools on the top, the little briefcase, now you have this thing called COA templates. That's exactly what we're looking at. So we click on COA templates and we go into this screen. There's a couple of things you can do here. You can click on Add New Template, and they have already by default product-based business and service-based business, and they're going to add more. So at QuickBooks Connect, they showed like a little screenshot of like 10 or 12 chart of accounts based on industry. So that's going to be awesome once they give us our basically industry-driven default chart of accounts, or you can create one from scratch too. So you pick one, you click on next, and then there's already a chart of accounts set up for you. You can edit this as a template. Okay, you can add your account numbers if you want to. You can edit this as a template. You can create sub accounts. Okay, whatever it is. Just imagine I spelled that correctly. So you can add your sub accounts and categorize things the way you're going to categorize them. Of course, again, this is not the correct category, but you can have your sub accounts, create those templates, and then once you have the template ready, which you can go edit or view or duplicate, you can then click on Apply Template, pick your file that you want to add it to. So one of your company files, you can add that. Click on Save, and it brings in that chart of accounts into your current QuickBooks Online file. Now, of course, there's all sorts of caveats to this, and the way this is going to work or not work, it gets complicated. And I recommend that you go into the podcast episode where Alicia and I maybe spend 30 minutes just kind of philosophizing about this, just going back and forth in terms of how is this going to work, what kind of issues this could bring, all sorts of things. But for brand new QBO files, like you created a brand new QBO file from scratch that I guess created with 0 accounts or with just the minimum default accounts, this is going to be awesome for you to quickly set up your files. Also, if you happen to have this awesome chart of accounts in a spreadsheet format, you can click on Import, click on Browse, find your chart of accounts. I don't know if I have one here available. Let's just say I do. Yes, I do. So I already have this like, sort of beautiful spreadsheet already laid out. I can bring in my chart of accounts, have it already sort of preset. So this is like my ultimate chart of accounts that I use. So I'm going to load this in here. I call it Hector's ultimate chart of accounts, and then click on save, and then it's already there as a template for me. So anytime that I create a brand new QuickBooks file and I create it with no accounts, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here and click on apply template, and boom, load it into my brand new chart of accounts. That's going to be the best way to use this new tool, and it's going to be pretty awesome. Now, while we're here, let's talk about QuickBooks Ledger really quick. So in the introduction, I kind of gave you the Reader's Digest version of QuickBooks Ledger. I'm going to go back into QuickBooks Online, and I'm going to show you kind of like, let's go back into the accountant dashboard. The most typical way that we're going to work with QuickBooks Ledger, the new version of QuickBooks Online, is we're going to go to Add Client, and let's say we're going to call this Ledger New 1130 LLC or something like that. It's just for me to be able to identify it. I'll put my own email address in here, and I'll put a phone number. Actually, I'll leave the phone number out. So I'm creating a brand new client in QuickBooks Online Accountant, and then under subscription, not no subscription, under subscription, I'm going to select ProAdvisor discount, and then I'm going to go down to Ledger, which is $10 a month. So I'll select on Ledger, and essentially that's how I create a new Ledger account. I get the option to add payroll if I want to. Let's say I don't want to add any payroll, so I won't click on add. I don't want to add any QuickBooks time. I don't want to add any contractor payments. Then I'm going to click on save, and it is going to automatically charge my credit card $10 a month for this new Ledger account. But I kind of want to walk you through the experience so you see what it's like. So we have brand new account here, Ledger New 1130. If I click on that and then click on QuickBooks, it's going to load my QuickBooks file. It's my QuickBooks Ledger file. And it looks exactly like QuickBooks Online, which I love. They didn't change any of the configuration. It is going to go through the iterations of setting up the account for you. Typically, what I like to do is I like to skip the industry and click on, I've been using QuickBooks Desktop, so it doesn't create a chart of accounts for me. That's kind of like the preferred way that I want to work with this. Then I'm going to go into done, and then I'll go through the motions of the new file setup. I wished, it didn't even ask me that at the beginning, but um, it's fine. One question, no big deal. It says here, do you want to bring your data? I'm just going to say no thanks, because let's say I'm not bringing anything from desktop. And if I was, obviously I would follow that process. But I'm going to go into my chart of accounts, and then it's just going to create a chart of accounts with those basic accounts that you can't change: uncategorized asset, on billable expense, services, uncategorized income. Sometimes it creates them double for you. I'm just going to delete the ones that I don't want to see. And of course, you have a limit on the ones that you can't get rid of or can't get rid of. So some of these you're just not going to be able to get rid of. So there might be some duplicates here. And let's just see how many I can get rid of here. There you go. So now we're down to the bare bones. These uncategorized assets, accounts, and categorized income and expenses. There's going to be a limit. Like some of them are just not going to let you get rid of them because they're part of like the online banking feature or whatever. So that's kind of the bare bones that you want to have. The minimum you want to have is these 5: uncategorized asset, billable expense, income, services, uncategorized income, and uncategorized expense. These 5 I can't get rid of. I don't know why I created a couple of doubles, but whatever. Just delete them, get rid of them. So this is my new QuickBooks Ledger. Like if I go to new, notice I can't create invoices, I can't do deposits, I can't do receive payments, I can't do bills. It's just limited to expenses, checks, the bank deposits, journal entries, and transfers. Okay, now really quick to like sort of like do full circle on both chart of account templates and QuickBooks Ledger. So we'll go back to QuickBooks Ledger in a second. I'm going to go back into my accountant home screen here. And then what I'll do is I'll go to accountant tools and go to chart of account templates. And I think this is probably how these things are going to be working best where you created maybe a new QuickBooks Ledger account or a new whatever QuickBooks Online account without a chart of accounts, and then you come in here, click on Apply Templates, and then you select your company file that you want to import your template into, click on Save, and then have this chart of accounts come in exactly and have your QBO file set up exactly the way you want it. So once that's done, I can switch over back into my my new ledger file or my new QuickBooks Online file. And essentially, when I go back into my chart of accounts, my chart of accounts is built exactly how I had it in my chart of account templates. That's sort of like the ultimate sort of one-two punch. You have this new, uh, really simple QuickBooks Online file, and you have this awesome with QuickBooks Ledger, and you have this awesome chart of accounts that's ready for you to use. And within basically minutes, you can get up and running with like a very, very accountant-friendly QuickBooks Online file for $10 a month, so you can focus on just doing write up for your clients. Now, let's take a look at the reports real quick just to see what that looks like. So I'll pull up a profit and loss. And this is like, most people don't know this little trick, but when you have a brand new file and has no data, and you try to run a report that shows you all the accounts, it won't show you that until you do two things. One, you have to go here, it says show rows, show all, and then click on run report. And then one more thing is you have to have at least one transaction in there. So what I essentially do is I go to new and journal entry, and I'll pick one account from my balance sheet and one account from my P&L. It could be these, and I'll put here zero point 0.01 and 0.01 or something like that. I can always go back and delete it. So just at least have one entry in one balance sheet account and one P&L account. And then when you go in here and you do all rows and click on run report and do all dates and then click on run report, it can now essentially show you what the full P&L is going to look like. So at this point, I can go to customize and I can do accept zero amount, so it shows all the zeros. Then I can collapse and kind of see what everything looks like collapse, or I can expand and then manually choose which accounts I want to show in detail and which ones I don't, type of thing. And then you can kind of preview what your financial statement is going to look like with your brand new chart of accounts that you imported. So essentially, what I'm showing you here is that other than the fact that you can't do invoices and bills, QuickBooks Ledger at the end of the day, um, and we'll go back into the into chart of accounts here, and I'll open up a register. It's got a register just like regular QuickBooks Online. It's going to have bank feeds just like QuickBooks Online, so I can connect my bank, so I can upload activity. So it all works the exact same way. So this new QuickBooks Ledger at the end of the day really isn't that much different, other than the fact that you can't do invoices and bills. Like, it's really just meant for you to do banking, register, and reports. Everything else about it is the exact same as QuickBooks Online. I love it. I really like it. One thing that's slightly different is that in QuickBooks Ledger, even if you have these features to, like, suggest categories and stuff like that, it won't suggest categories for you. Like, it'll start everything in default as uncategorized income and uncategorized expense, which I love, by the way. I hate when QuickBooks tells me what things are supposed to be. And then as I categorize things, it'll remember. So if I tell it, hey, this thing is going to be, let's say, bank fee or something like that, okay, and we'll create a vendor here called ABC, and then click on add. So I can now create rules, and it can now remember how I work, but it won't give me suggestions. So that would be the fundamental difference between, like, regular QuickBooks Online, for end users and accountants. This one's for accountants only, and it doesn't give you suggestions other than stuff that you've actually put there before and actual rules that you have created. So I personally like that a lot, and I hope that doesn't change. And who knows if that's going to change or not? But that's one of the huge advantages of this. That if it just feels like I'm in the driver's seat, like I have more control, And again, this is not meant for end users to use anyway. So even if they will give us suggestions, we probably wouldn't have an issue with that in the first place. Some of the kind of quirky things that happen with it is like, okay, I already used the payee on the transaction. So sometimes they'll like miss the payee for some weird reason. So it takes a little bit longer to the payee to kick in. So when I see things like that happen, then I would just create a rule. Okay. So it's a little bit different than the banking, a tiny little bit different again because sort of it's not QuickBooks is not the one suggesting things, so it requires you to do a little bit more things or add more explicit rules to make it work the way you want to. But maybe they'll tweak that, maybe they won't. Who knows? So that's QuickBooks. That's QuickBooks Ledger for you. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Let's move on to QuickBooks Online Advanced. So what's new in QuickBooks Online Advanced? First thing we have is the Fixed Asset Manager, probably the biggest thing that was released a couple of months ago. And unfortunately, this is the type of thing that I think should have been built into all versions of QuickBooks Online, or at least give the accountants access to this. I think where they missed the mark is they only made it available in QuickBooks Online Advanced. I mean, it is what it is, but we'll walk you through that so you can see what that looks like. So let me go back into QuickBooks Online. I'll switch to my QuickBooks Online Advanced sample file that we have here. And then you're going to see on the left navigation bar a new sort of like tab or category called Advanced Accounting. So when I go to Advanced Accounting Fixed Assets, that's going to take me to the new Fixed Asset Manager. So in this screen, we can actually view a report. So I've already created some sample fixed assets here for you. So if I click on Run Report, it takes me to the report that shows me all my fixed assets. And it shows me the dollar amounts, the purchase dates, useful life, depreciation for the period, like a typical depreciation schedule. Not a fan of the side scrolling. I wish they had fit that into a single page. If you export to PDF, I mean, it's just not going to be very useful. Just too many columns. So I guess you're going to have to get creative here and pick and choose which columns you want to see. So you're going to have to, maybe, close some of these accounts here to be able to see more information or I mean to see less columns, and when you print it to be able to see basically more stuff in a single page. That's useful. That's something they're going to have to work on. They're going to have to improve those reports, or at least the default of those reports. Let's go back into fixed asset and let's talk about how to create the fixed assets. So there is an add multiple assets worksheet where you can essentially import from a CSV file, which is pretty cool. There is a sample CSV file you can work with, just like with the new budgets. So let's open this up. I'll zoom in. It's a little bit easier to read. So here's a spreadsheet for you. You got asset name, class, location, description, purchase price, salvage value, asset start date, depreciation method, useful life, accumulated amount to date, asset account, depreciation account, accumulated depreciation account. So if you have all this stuff laid out on a spreadsheet, you can easily import it and bring it in sort of like a grid and bring in a bunch at the same time. So it's going to get some used to working with, and you can choose which columns you want to bring in. Of course, all these that are not grayed out are the only ones that are optional. Everything else you have to be able to import in there. Okay. So X out of that, let's just talk about creating an asset from scratch. So I'm going to go to Add Asset. So I'm going to call this Ford 2023 Escapade. I don't even know that's the name of a car. So we're going to set up, and then let's say we'll create a class here. We'll put a location. Let's say these are from a Canadian location. We can add here a VIN number, okay, or whatever information we want, right? Whatever information we want to put. Truck for delivery, whatever you want to call it. Purchase price, let's say that's going to be $48,000. Salvage value in, let's say, 5 years is going to be approximately, let's say, half of that, so 24,000. Depreciation method would be straight line. Depreciation start date, let's say it's going to be December 1st. Then the asset account, so in this case, it would be like our automobiles. fixed asset account. We'll find our depreciation account. We should have a depreciation expense account. Accumulated depreciation account. There should be an accumulated depreciation account. There we go. So then we click on save, and that creates it for you. It creates a fixed asset. And then it tells you what the depreciation schedule is going to look like. It's going to show you how much depreciation is going to take each month. And essentially on the very first of, sorry, not the first, on the end of the month, of the first depreciation month, you're going to see an automatic journal entry be booked for the month's depreciation and the depreciation expense and the accumulated depreciation. And you're going to see all those entries come in automatically. So you don't have to worry about it. It'll create them for you. Now, they don't have, I'm just going to warn you on the stuff that's kind of not working. They don't have a good method for disposing. Like when you go to dispose, I mean, there is a workflow for that, and they just added this recently. But there isn't a good configuration for you to sort of give it specifics as to like when it's being disposed. When I click on dispose, it disposes it as of the date that I click on dispose. Like I can't go back and dispose something backwards and go, hey, by the way, I was supposed to dispose this 2 months ago or 3 months ago or whatever. You can't. So it will dispose it as of today's date because all the journal entries, quote unquote, would still have been entered for you. And then you actually have to do the disposal entry yourself. So you have to go into the book value and charge it against whatever the disposal process was, whether you sold it or you got rid of it or whatever. You're gonna have to do an entry for you. So there isn't like a sort of a full workflow for disposal. There's just this button to dispose, and then there's a delete button as well, where you can just delete the asset. So interesting. First version of this. It's again, I think it's useful. I wish the accountant edition had it where accountants could do this across all versions of QuickBooks Online. It's only in advance. So unfortunately, there'll only be like a few amount of clients, end users, businesses that actually use this. So this might be one of the slower features to fix and accelerate functionality for, because there'll just be less collective feedback on this because it's advanced only. Then we talked about we already talked about the new modern layout improvements, but specifically in QuickBooks Online Advanced, you get to see the first version of a summary report under the new schema of reporting, the new enhanced reporting or modernized view, or whatever you want to call it. So if I go to my profit and loss, where's my profit and loss? So the new profit and loss beta, it uses the new enhanced report feature or the new modernized reports feature. This is the first version of a summary report, like a P&L or balance sheet type of report that we get to see. It works pretty nicely, I think. I think it's really pretty. It's consistent with everything else. If you click on any of these to drill down, you click on the drill down. It opens up a new tab, which is nice. And the new tab contains the drill down under the new view. Again, unfortunately, once you start working with this new version, you don't have like go back to classic view button, because you're already working under this new design or this new system. So this is what it's going to start looking like. P&Ls, balance sheets, all the summary reports are going to start looking like this. Something to look at only in the advanced edition for now. Eventually, all versions of QBO will have every single report using this new reporting system, and I guarantee you'll learn to like it. Okay, almost at the finish line here. So let's go to the very last thing, which is the new QuickBooks Online Advanced Permissions. You're going to start seeing a great improvement into the permission structure, actually across the board. QuickBooks Online Essentials plus Advanced. Advanced obviously is going to get the more granular stuff, but this is the part that QuickBooks is investing a lot in. It's in the user permissions, specifically because of the new QuickBooks Online Bill Pay feature that actually is coming out this quarter. I don't have any live files with QuickBooks Online Bill Pay. That's why I haven't even covered it. I'm probably going to save that for the next quarterly update, just because I only have screenshots. I only have um, the videos that I've seen. So this is the one thing that we didn't talk about that's pertinent to this quarter, but I don't have any files with it, is QuickBooks Online Bill Pay. So because QuickBooks Online Bill Pay, now there's a need to create roles related to bill pay. So we have the bill clerk, the bill approver, and the bill payer. So with when you turn on QuickBooks Online Bill Pay on Simple Start, Essentials, sorry, on Essentials Plus, Essentials or Plus, if you turn on QuickBooks Online Bill Pay Elite, you have access to these three special roles. And then if you have QuickBooks Online Advanced, you have access to these special roles and the other granular permissions of QuickBooks Online. So we'll go into that. Let's go back into QuickBooks Online here. And I'm going to go into the gear menu, click on Manage Users. And now I'll be able to go into roles. And notice that there's three roles here: bill approver, bill clerk, and bill payer. Again, these show up automatically in QuickBooks Online Advanced, and they will show up in your Essentials and Plus accounts if you add QuickBooks Online Bill Pay Elite. Okay, so they're only in Advanced and any other version if you have QuickBooks Online Bill Pay Elite. Anyway, so you can pick one of these, you can edit it, and you can kind of see the stuff that they have partial access to. So this one called Bill Approver, they can only view bills and approve bills. Pretty simple. You can create these from scratch too. I'm actually going to go back here, go to roles, create a new role, and let's do bill plus expense clerk or something like that. Okay. So let's say the bill expense clerk is only going to have access, like nothing on the invoicing side, nothing on the sales side. So we'll close that. On the expenses, let's say they're going to be able to view bills, create bills. Let's say they can't create them. They can only approve them or view them. Or let's say they can't approve them. They can only create them, for example. So they can only view and create, and partial means they can only edit their own. Then let's say they can grant access to checks and grant access to expense claims. So now kind of the challenges that we have here is, unfortunately, with these little check marks, you don't have that full granular permission yet. You're going to start seeing these boxes open up little by little. You're going to have to start giving people, like, for example, access to bookkeeping. So then you can go back to the expenses and have access to more bookkeeping or type of stuff like expenses and checks, vendor credits, that sort of thing. So unfortunately, it's not fully flushed out yet. Like you see a few boxes like this approved box. You see it much better illustrated, so you can see basically per transaction type what the permission structure is, but you don't get a full easy visual to understand what affects what. Like, for example, I can't turn off like anything on expenses. I can't turn them off because I have it turned on under bookkeeping. So I have to go in there and literally turn off access on bookkeeping to then go back into expenses and have these things extra way. And you kind of have to know how these things work and what the relationship between them is. So it's not great, not fully flushed out. What works well is this whole approver creator situation. So for creating bills and approving bills, that workflow is actually working well, but all the other stuff, not yet. And this is the stuff that we're expecting to see in the next upcoming months, is to actually get to see more of these boxes enable, where you can pick and choose granularly what level of access you want these users to have. And really, that's it with user permissions. Again, I'm hoping to see more improvement on that soon. Hopefully, with this QuickBooks Bill Pay new product, there's going to be more push to have just better permission structure across all versions of QuickBooks Online. So anyway, if I missed anything, if you have any questions or comments that weren't answered during the live webinar, or maybe you put it in the YouTube comments and you didn't get an answer for, email me and I'll gladly answer that. I'll leave the webinar up for a couple more minutes so Alicia can finish answering the questions via the chat. And with that, thank you very much for attending this Q4 2023 updates of advanced webinars for QuickBooks, and I'll see you on the next quarter.